Hello viewers, my name is Kojo Vanes. I'll be your facilitator for the compensation and benefits training, which is on the 27th and 28th April, organized by SEDAT at the Crystal Palm Hotel at Tesano. This is going to be a time for HR practitioners to have hands-on experience on how to design a compensation and benefits policy, how to design the payroll, how to even design a salary structure. We have done this training for the past 4 years, and I can confidently tell you that every single person that has participated in this training currently is able to design their own payroll, design their own salary structure, and do not entirely need any consultant. So I encourage each and every one of you to register. You can look down there, you get the information needed to register. Make the call SEDAT, and let's meet on the 27th and 28th.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. Welcome to today's episode of HR Digest, where we discuss relevant topics on people and organizational issues and discuss and get solutions to how we can build solid workplace environment for the people we work with, as well as an environment that will thrive to positively impact on the bottom line. SEDAT HR Digest is brought to us by SEDAT Consult. You can contact SEDAT Consult on 0244 629245, 0244 629245 for all your HR and people needs, and as well as Quick Fix Creative for all your printing and designing needs. You can contact Quick Fix Creatives on 055 209 0057, 055 209 0057. I'd like to specially remind you of the upcoming training on how to design a competitive salary grading and salary structure coming off on the 27th and 28th at the Royal Palm Hotel here in Accra. In the course of the discussion, the link would be shared in the comment box. Click on it to register and come learn on how to design the salary structure and have an understanding of what goes into it. Well, this week we are continuing with our Q&A session. Last week we had an interesting time, and today we want to continue with the questions that came in last week. My guest today did justice to our questions last week, and we are privileged to have them on this week. Dora Sian Latte is one of our guests. Dora is a human resource practitioner with over 20 years of continuous experience, a chartered HR, and a member of the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management, Ghana. She is an arbitrator, a certified arbitrator, or a mediator listed with the Ghana Labour Commission. Welcome, Dora. Good to have you today. Hi, Dora. You're welcome.
Yeah, good to have you too, Pat. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So good to be back again. Thank you.
Good to have you. Our second guest today is a known face. We've been saying him over and over here. Jeff Boham is a global learning and development, business project management, and general human resource management based in the US. George have wide experience in the HR field, and he is very passionate. I mean, last week we all saw he's passionate when it comes to, general HR as well as diversity and inclusion. You're welcome, George. Jeff.
Thank you very much, Patience.
Good to have you today.
Thanks for inviting me again. I'm actually, like I said earlier, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm visiting friends, and I'm doing this from my little room. So forgive me when you see a bed and things like that. But
Don't worry.
this is the quietest area I have to do. But thank you so much for inviting me once again.
You're welcome, Jeff. We are also privileged to have you. Last week in the comment section, we saw some few questions around the Labor Commission and all that. And so today we decided to bring an expert from the Labor Commission. Stephen Osei-Kisi is the head of Greater Accra Regional Secretariat of the Labor Commission, and he has been working with the Labor Commission for years now. Stephen, you are welcome to Sedat HR Digest.
Thank you, Patience.
I like the beer. I guess Kojo is having a competitor now.
Please, I beg you. My mother is here. If you talk about my beard, she will say I should go.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Steve. Hi, Steve.
And Dora.
Hi.
All right. So my guests are ready for us. If you are watching us for the first time, we want to specially welcome you to today's episode of Sedat HR Digest. If you have any contribution, any question, feel free to drop it in the comment box. We will see it and read it out for our guests to respond to you. And also, we want to acknowledge you and then also have a feel that you are here with us, and so you can drop your name and your location at same place. The comment box will read it out and acknowledge you. I see Happy says hi Happy, welcome to Sedat HR Digest, and all our viewers on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Facebook, we see you. Thank you so much. I know a lot of you don't drop your name when you come, but we still want to acknowledge you. I feel that you are with us today. And today, because it's a Q&A session, we have decided to extend our time to an hour and a half, because last week we noticed we didn't have a lot of time to respond to your questions. And so today we've extended the time so we can be able to answer, if not all, most of the questions that we received last week and the new ones that came in this week. So we want to go straight to our discussion today. Interesting questions, and I believe our guests are fired up to respond to us. Now, the first question is, are HR practitioners the reason people are paid low in Ghana? Are HR practitioners the reason people are paid low in Ghana? And this trended some time ago. Somewhere a month or two, was all over social media. Dora, help us with this question. Are HR professionals the reason people are paid low in Ghana?
All right, thank you, Pat.
You would want to add this to it. What your take is on across-board salary increment. Does it support productivity and motivation? So you are giving us an answer to whether HR practitioners are the reasons for the reason why people are paid low, as well as your take on across-board salary increment and its impact on productivity and motivation.
All right, thank you, Pat. So when I first saw that, it's sad for a practitioner to write this. So the reason I can assign to this question is that the person doesn't work in an organization where there are systems and structures working. So anybody who poses this question has a reason to do that. You understand? So they are not working in a structured organization where a salary survey is conducted, job evaluation is done, jobs are weighted, and based on the weighting, the salary structure is drawn and positions are slotted onto the salary structure. So how on earth can an HR practitioner influence somebody's salary in Ghana? That's the question. How on earth can that happen? So this can only happen in one-man organizations where the owner of the business would look into Dora's face and say, Dora, your face is too dark. So I'm putting you, maybe I'm paying you, this much. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way.
Your face
You
is
understand
dark
what I mean?
like that stone.
How can HR practitioners be the reason people are paid low in Ghana? We don't determine people's salaries.
Absolutely.
It is the job titles, the duties of the position, the risks. So I'm mentioning some of the compensable job factors, the risks associated with the position, the experience that is required for a particular job and all that. Based on the job description and the job evaluation, jobs are weighted, like I've said already, and then a salary structure is drawn and positions are placed on the structure. So if before somebody is hired, the salary structure is there already. So the human resource manager would just do the right thing by placing the person where on the position where the person has been hired. So please, Ghana and the whole, people are listening to us over the whole throughout the whole world, or from the whole world, from the everywhere. So HR practitioners can never be the reason people are paid low only in Ghana. So Pat, I believe I've answered that one.
Yes.
You want my colleagues to add to it before we go to the next one? Or?
No, you can go ahead with the next one.
All right. So the next one is my take on across-board salary increments. Across-board salary increments is paid based to compensate for inflation. So when salaries are going to be increased for structured organizations, that is what I know. I'm not responding to one-man organizations. So when salaries are going to be increased, there are some factors that are taken into consideration. You can look at merit increments based on performance. That is based on the appraisal rating, right? Then you can also look at length of service. Sometimes you can also look at it. Somebody has been in a position for so long. Sometimes you can look at that one. And then you can look at across board as well. But the main thing in contemporary time, the main factor is the merit increments based on performance. So yes, across board increments can be paid or can be a factor in determining salary increments to compensate for inflation. And most of the time the union people would want to tell management, don't use the performance-based increments, but that one also discourages productivity. All right, if for instance the percentage that has been approved for the salary increment is 20%, 15%, you are not, an organization is unable to use the entire percentage to pay across board. It will demotivate people who are working hard. You understand? So you have to, the 25%, the 20% now is 100%. So you must apportion some to some small percentage, maybe about 30% of that 100% to across board, some to, and then a bigger percentage to merit based, that is the performance based increment, and then maybe some 5% of that 100% to length of service. You understand? So for me, I don't think it demotivates everybody. Every year in our part of the world, there is inflation. This year, we know that we've reached an all-time inflation rate of about 50%. So obviously, government and organizations must give something to compensate for inflation. And this year, government has done 30% for public sector workers. All right. So that doesn't mean that it will demotivate people not to perform. Right. So there are factors used by organizations for salary increment, and across board is part of it. But you know, most organizations, private sector organizations, wouldn't want to. Would not be too happy to give a bigger percentage for the across board. So of course, yes, something for inflation, a bigger chunk of the percentage that has been agreed for a merit increment, and then a little percentage for length of service. So that's what I can say about that. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Dora. And so, if you are listening to us here and you are thinking of increasing salaries, or if you are the one who sent us this question, across board can compensate for inflation, but make sure that you reward for performance as well, so that people would feel motivated. And if your whole percentage is big enough, you can apportion some for long service as well. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Dora. So I would like to move to Stephen. Stephen, there's a question on the Labor Act here. And the person says the Labor Act states that equal pay for equal work done. Should employers take into account the number of years when awarding salaries, or it's not necessary? Equal pay for equal work done. Should employers take into account the number of years? I mean, if somebody has already been in the company working and then another person just comes in, because the act is saying equal pay for equal work done, should we pay the person same as the one who had been in the business and working for 3-4 years, or it's not necessary? We can just use the years of service to distinguish them. I don't know if you
Okay.
could.
Yeah, I get you, and good afternoon to all of us. I think I'll draw from where Madam Dora ended her submission, in terms of having in place a proper system to reward work. Now, in organizations where this is common or it's already in place, it is immaterial whether you have worked for 5 years or for 2 years or for whatever period, because the system is designed in such a way that it is rewarding the work you are doing, not the number of years you have spent within the setup. Because if you're going to use the number of years, then it means that, let's say, for the gentleman who is at the gate, who has been there for almost 6 years or 5 years, he should be drawing more than the HR person who has just come in, because we're saying equal work for equal pay. But the performance, or in terms of the duties, they both differ. So when the Act talks about equal work for equal pay, it is looking at the role, number one, the duty that comes with the role, and the benefit that accompanies it. Yes, you can reward years of work. That is why you will find that in some policies, provisions are made for long service awards. One of the ways of catering for people who have stayed longer in the organization is that kind of policy, so that we don't necessarily tie your salary to your years of work. Because, like I said, if there's a policy in place, if there's a system in place, automatically the system makes these adjustments with time. And then the other benefits would also kick in, because clearly, if you are doing 2 years, if you are doing 3 years, and there's a policy that says that after 4 years, you're supposed to have this increment, or after 2 years, you should have some form of increment, then that the policy will take care of itself. And then maybe 5 years later, you get something for staying longer beyond 5 years. You are rewarded for it. So that is how the other side, or the other part of equal work for equal pay, can be catered for. But it still goes down to what kind of system are we operating at the workplace, so that if somebody is coming in today, what is the system allowing for? What role is the person coming to do? What is the nature of the job the person is coming to perform? And the benefit that is accompanying the said role. Automatically, it answers the question of, is the person doing an equal work for which there's a commensurate equal pay? That's my position on that.
All right, thank you, Stephen. Samuel Sosu, Thank you for watching. Someone is watching us from Kumasi. Ellen, thank you. Josephine Aqua said, good to have you again. Good afternoon. Good to have you here, Josephine. Thank you so much for joining. Jeff, I would want you to speak to this question for me. The person says, what should employers consider when dealing with promotion?
Well, thank you very much, first and foremost. It looks like okay, minutes, but what I would say is my initial response will be it should be defined from all the employees working. Okay, and many organizations have their own promotional plans, their promotional strategies. What do you say?
Can you please position yourself well? The internet was very
bad. Folks are not seeing me well, right?
We weren't hearing you too well.
Oh, really? Yeah, it might be an internet issue. I'm down in the basement room, so please forgive me.
It's better. It's better now.
So do you hear me clearly now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so the point I was trying to establish is that, you see, it has to be something that is known upfront before even the employee starts working. Okay, you get into an organization, they have to explain to you what your duties and responsibilities are, and they also have to be clear on what it's going to take for you to move to the next level. So there are no surprises. But in general, I would say what I've seen a lot of organizations do, at least here in the United States, what I've seen a lot of organizations do, they try to make the system as fair as possible. So if there's a general increase or a general, like something that really requires people to get promoted, okay, sometimes they would announce it and let people come and justify why they should be promoted. There are other times when they select somebody, it will be based on job performance data. So, and they look at job performance data from different angles, from what the initial targets that they set for the person, number one. Number two, from maybe 360 reviews, how people perceive the person's performance. Okay. And three, they look at things such as whether somebody influenced people, went above and beyond. So there are a whole lot of things that go into it. It's a very complicated process. I don't think it's something that is standardized across company or standardized across industry. I think organizations do have their own decisions that they make. However, just one thing to throw in, I've seen people's salaries also get reduced because they didn't achieve their targets. That's the system here. Unlike in some parts of the world where you start at 10,000 Ghana and you know that at the end of the month you're going to get 10,000 Ghana, these guys stay on your toes. So if they tell you you're going to earn 10,000 Ghana, they know what they expect you to do to get a 10,000 Ghana. Okay, if you fall short of expectations, they will gladly demote you or they will reduce your salary. So everything points back to you, the individual. The way the system here is in the United States is what you get is a reflection of what you do. And you have people who start organizations very quickly and within 6-7 years, they are the directors. And you can have people who've been with the organization for 20 years and they don't go anywhere. If all you get is satisfactory, you continue being in your position. So at the end of the day, promotional factors depend on a lot of things. They depend on performance. They depend on longevity. They depend on, some people, some people become like good net promoters. There are some people who they become powerful and well known in the community, in the industry. They kind of grow the base, the clientele base and things like that. But when they are promoting people, they definitely will make it clear to other people why they're promoting the person. And they will say, if anybody has any reservations, please come and share. And 99% of the time, you find out that their promotions are fair. Unless in sole proprietorships where the person can say, this person is my cousin and I trust this person more. That can always happen. But in organizations that are well structured and well organized, I'll tell you one thing, what I know in the United States is your long service wouldn't guarantee you promotion. just your efficiency wouldn't guarantee you promotion. It's something that really has to be, you have to go above and beyond in so many areas, but they will state those things to you upfront. So there are no surprises. That's basically what I would share.
There are no surprises. If you want to promote people within your organization, get your promotional policy clear. Let them know what is expected of them, what is required before you be promoted, so that you won't go disturbing Stephen in his office. But Jeff made an interesting comment about people having their salaries reduced if you don't live up to expectation or what is required of you. I want to go to Stephen. Stephen, what's the position of our law on this? Is it okay? Is it legal to do that in Ghana? If I'm earning 10,000 or I'm supposed to earn 10,000, and at the end of the month I'm not, in fact, I haven't worked up to expectation. Do I still expect my 10,000, or reducing it is okay?
Well, okay. So there are two folds. Now, it depends on what the contract of employment says. So, if the hello, patients, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So if the contract of employment is explicit as to what you get at the end of every month, so like the 10,000 cedis example, that there's a contract that says that at the end of every month you get paid 10,000 cedis. That is what the contract says. There are no changes. You'd also find in certain contracts that in as much as it is stated you are going to earn 10,000 cedis, there's a portion of that 10,000 cedis that is tied to your performance during the month. Now, in the event where that is stated in your contract of employment, if you're not meeting that particular performance requirement, you can believe that you will not get your 10,000 cedis, because clearly that component that should be added before you can get your 10,000, you are not meeting the basic requirements. However, if the contract is stated plainly that this is what you draw at the end of every month, that is what the contract is saying. So you take the contract on the face of it. If you take it, looking at it as it is on paper, then you can't read any other meanings into it. So you would find that there are certain circumstances, a number of times people have approached the Labor Commission, where their contracts say they will pay a certain employee 10,000 cedis for every month. Then during the month, they say the employee is not working well, so we cannot pay the 10,000. We will pay 6,000 cedis. What is the justification for saying that you're going to pay 6,000 cedis? Because at the time that you were engaging in the contract, you did not include those other elements that will require you to pay a little less than what has already been agreed on. So you find that once that happens, then if you put that by our law, then we would say that you are engaged in an unfair labor practice, because you are kind of shortchanging the employee. So it is for all of us to make sure that if it is that we're going to tie salaries to performance from the very beginning, it should be known to the parties that your salary is tied to your performance. In as much as we're saying we'll pay you so much, a certain percentage of it will go down to how well you perform during the month. And the way they rate these things, the ratings are done in such a way that if you clock the minimum requirement, you know that this month there, your 10,000 is assured. You can just tell. And those systems are not hidden. They are there for you to see. So if you hide it, then clearly those issues will come up. But if it is there and there's that understanding from the very beginning, then it shouldn't be an issue at all. And that has always been the position of the commission. What you state at the time of beginning the relationship is what we are going to respect, because that is what the two of you have agreed to work with. So we would respect that.
Wow, thank you,
Right.
Stephen.
So Pat, can I add something?
Sure, you can.
Yeah. So Steve mentioned the contract of employment. I believe he also what was also referring to policies and procedures operating within the organization. So aside the contract, the contents of the contract of employment, the organization may have a policy also, a general policy that binds all employees. So once, even though it's not stated in your contract of employment, there may be a general policy about performance, right? So that if you don't, maybe a person for this category of staff, managerial staff, senior staff, junior staff, 10% of your salary is tied to performance or something. So aside the contract of employment, there could be other general policies that bind all employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Aside the contract of employment, there could be other general policies that would help you handle this. Let me go back to Jeff. Somebody wants to know, how do I know a candidate is the right choice for an advertised role?
What's the question again? How do I know?
How do I know a candidate is the right choice for an advertised role?
An advertised role.
Yes, so you have advertised role.
Yeah, the thing is, I would say you would have to, once you advertise the position, okay, the other things you look out for, you have to really kind of create a persona, a type of person that fits, a type of person that's going to be a perfect fit. And they have certain criteria. At least I know the way our folks here in the United States think. They have certain criteria. They believe strongly, and I believe a lot of organizations globally also think that way, that past performance in similar circumstances is the best predictor of future performance. So when you come for interviews, they're not going to say, you are this, you are that, you have this degree. It's not about that. They usually would ask you questions about, tell me about the time when you faced XYZ scenarios and situations. How did you solve them? What were your specific contributions and what were the outcomes? So they sit down, they look at a whole lot of things. The first thing they're going to look at is potential performance. They look at potential performance because obviously they want you to come in and do something. They want you to come in and make an impact. So they look at potential performance. Then they look at cultural fit. Are you a type A personality? Are you the type of person they want to hire? Okay. They look at things such as your background. Your previous experiences. How do they translate? So they narrow the candidates down to maybe the top 2 or 3. And then sometimes they use like expert judgment. You're going to use like different groups of people who've been in the job for a long time and say which of these candidates is going to be the best fit and which of these candidates is also going to be the best person who is likely going to grow, produce, and get promoted in the role, if that's what they're looking for. And when the one thing I like about this country is when they deny you, a position or something, you can call them and ask why, and they'll give you the details. It's not like nothing is hidden in secrecy. And to go back to the previous topic that we were discussing, okay, I've worked for an organization before. Where across the board increases were multiplied by your total number of years in the company. So if the company decides to give a bonus of $1,000 and you've been in the company for a year, you get $1,000.
I guess I want to relocate right now for 20 years.
Somebody who's been in the company for 20 years, even though they say the company bonus, across board bonus for everybody is $1,000, you get $20,000 because you've given the company 20 years of loyalty. And you wouldn't be in the company if you were not performing. Americans are very sweet and swift when it comes to firing. If they don't meet, because they exist, they really exist, and they are bold. They will tell you point blank, they really exist to make a profit. So if you think you're gonna coast and go to people's offices in the morning and be drinking coffee and eating breakfast and reading the newspapers and saying it's been a busy day, they will say, like Dora said earlier, prove to us how much you have contributed, okay, as part of this growth that we're having. But again, if you've been with the company, they reward your long service. And then at the same time, if you're a negative influence, they can tell you that we have to reduce your salary by XYZ percentage. And if you don't want it, we are telling you that's how much you're bringing to us. So if you don't want it, you are free to leave. Employment at will. They have every right to reduce your salary. So that's how the thinking here is. What I'm hearing from the various submissions and presentations, what I'm hearing is that in our part of the country, people tend to resort to the law. Okay, the Labor Commission says we should do this. No, it's not about all. The laws are there to protect us. But at the end of the day, we have to start thinking that it is we, HR people, who craft and design our own promotions. depending on how much value we add to the organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. And so if you want to know if a candidate is right for a job you have advertised. Okay, so Equia is giving us a contribution. Equia says that behavioral interviews can help in situations like this. Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe Jeff mentioned that. So at the interview, it's not about what is. You ask questions that brings out the person's experience, what the person had done before, and then you can translate it on what the person is going to do for you. And so you need to watch out if the person is a potential performer, watch out if the person is a cultural fit, because some people are good at, working, performance and everything, but in terms of culture, is a no. You bring the person in and now the person begins to give you problems. So you need to watch that too. Thank you so much, Equia. Nelly says, hi, Love Abuaje is watching us from Spinters. Equia Ejewa says, whoa, thank you so much. I just came in, but I'm enjoying. Thank you, Equia, for coming in. Let me move to Dora. And I'm going to take my time to read this question. So Dora, this person says, Act 651 gives both the employer and the employee the right to terminate the employment relationship by giving the other party the prescribed notice or payment in lieu of notice. However, I would like to find out if there are conditions under which an employer can reject the resignation of an employee who is under investigation or who is under investigation for alleged acts of financial.
Maybe financial malfeasance or something.
I'm sure.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Pat. So the premise has been stated that either party can terminate the employment by giving notice. If you don't give notice, you have to pay something to either party in lieu of the notice. Now, the main question is whether an employer can reject an employee's resignation, somebody who is under investigation for. Well, for me, best practice tells me that if somebody wants to resign, irrespective of the fact that the person is being investigated or not, an employer cannot reject an employee's resignation. I mean, those thinkings were, some years back. That's okay. You cannot say, once a person is being investigated or an investigation, the person, where the person stays, what is the person going to do in the office? The person can never be productive, and you are still going to pay the person for being there. So for me, my take is that, yes, accept the resignation, but whilst accepting, state the situation at a point of departure. And then the employer has the right to send to lodge a complaint. If it's a criminal issue, just lodge the complaint at the police station or wherever you have to lodge it, and then let the law take its course. But to say you are not accepting the resignation, for me, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Accept the resignation, however, state everything that is, the facts at the point of departure. That's okay, you have done this, you did this and that, allegedly, and it's an investigation. An investigation committee has been set up to investigate it. However, during the course of that, you have decided to resign. All right, so this is it. We are going ahead to lodge a complaint at the police station or to, for the law to take its course. And then the law will take its course. That is what I can say. Thank you.
So, Dora, what happens if the investigation is not bordered around, it's not centered around financials, or maybe any other thing that's probably they want to?
Any other thing like what? If it's not a criminal issue, you have to accept the resignation. If it is not a criminal matter, if it's not a matter that is, would hurt the organization, why not accept it? So if it's one that would hurt the organization and it's like a criminal matter, an alleged criminal matter, that is why you are going to let the law take its course. You let the law, the law take it by maybe reporting at the police station for, if it's a civil matter, for it to go to court or something, for the court to decide whatever it is. You understand me? So once it is not something that will help the organization, why not accept it? If there is something that you have to deduct from the person's benefits, you do that, and then you terminate the relationship. That's what I can say. Maybe my colleagues would add to it, or maybe if they have a divergent view, then we discuss it. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Dora. I want to take Jeff's view on this. Jeff, how is it handled over there?
I've never had any employer ever tell anybody we are not going to accept your resignation. For whatever reason, I've never heard. Okay, and the thing is, and like Dora is saying, I don't think it's even the right thing to do. However, in this country, one thing I know is they have kind of indirect protections. What do I mean here? Before anybody hires you in the United States, even if it's for a sweeper, a cleaner job, they're going to check references. They're going to ask your previous employers, and they want to speak to your previous supervisors. So the reason why you left, if you were under criminal investigation, if you were under some kind of financial malfeasance, will come from the people you work with. And
Oh, sorry. We missed Jeff.
Fine.
Yeah, we missed Jeff on this. I don't know
Sure,
if Steven would want
internet.
to. Yeah, Steven, would you want to add something to what has been said about rejecting?
Well,
resignation?
I don't for the most instances, just like Madam Dora mentioned earlier, I don't see why it should be difficult for an employer to say you're rejecting an employee's resignation. Whether you reject or not, the person is still going. Now, granted that you even have issues with the said employee, and therefore granting or accepting the resignation would be too much on the organization. Just like Madam Dora explained, accept the resignation, and once you accept, you're supposed to write back. Now, in your acceptance of the resignation, you state the conditions under which the person is leaving, so that in the future, it won't be like the person just dropped the resignation and walked away in the middle of an investigation. No. So if it is not about theft, it's not about a company's finance or a company property that the employee has taken away without permission, for which maybe you may have to involve the police because then it borders on criminality. The criminal part can proceed, but the administrative function must also be carried out. So that if the employee thinks that whatever they have taken away without permission, they know that the subsequent action will be that they will be shown the exit. So they want to now leave, let them leave. But let it be known on paper that this person left under this particular circumstance. So that in the event where Auntie Dora comes to your office to do an HR audit and she questions, how is it that this person left at this time when you were doing an investigation on the said employee? You can use that letter to say, well, at the same time, the person left. However, in our response, this is exactly what we stated, that you are leaving at the time where you are under investigations for X, Y, Z reasons. So it answers that audit question. And you realize that whoever is doing the audit will go like, okay, so you are on top of your affairs. But to just accept and let the person go without stating, that would be a little problematic.
That will be a little problematic if you just accept and you don't, in your response, states why the person is leaving, and then the circumstances surrounding the person's exit. Now Jeff is back. We lost you, Jeff.
yeah, I don't know, for some reason it's been dropping.
Right. So if you would want to complete what you were saying, then we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I think I was talking about the fact that I haven't really seen any organization not accept someone's resignation.
Jeff is still having challenges.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think at my end is better.
Uh-huh.
I hope everyone is hearing me. Sorry,
That's okay.
I'm in a basement room, and that's the reason why. It might be the connectivity issue. But I would say that, you see, if you resign in the midst of investigations, then for sure you can't go to any other organization. Because the first thing they're going to ask you is, why did you leave your previous job? Okay. And even if they get you started, they're going to go back and review. because they don't want to create a bad work environment where they have criminals and thieves there. So even if you join within your first 90 days, they're going to go to your previous employer. And think about it, if you are an executive, they're going to go to your previous employer and they'll come and remove you from the job, and they will put in the newspapers that this person was in a criminal, or let's say this person had engaged in some financial malfeasance and found a way to lie on his or her resume, to get to us. But unfortunately, we had to fire the person. If it's 100,000 employee organization, they're going to send that email out. We are sorry to announce that our new chief executive had to be removed from office by security because of XYZ. They're going to post it in the newspapers. So it is prudent and wise for, I would say, people leaving organizations to make sure they separate on good terms, because you are walking away, but remember, they also have a chance, or they have a role to play in your new job. So that is one thing you always have to think about.
Right. Thank you so much, Jeff. But over here in Ghana, there's a default answer to why did you leave your previous organization. I see Stephen smiling. There's a default. I'll welcome back. I was saying in Ghana, we have a default response to why are you leaving, or why have you left your previous organization. It has always been
it's top on the interview questions.
Yeah, but we always have a default response to it. Look for a challenging working environment that will help me. That has been the default response.
Sure. But that's why, like Jeff said, you have to do the background checks. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the background checks would reveal why the person actually left.
Yeah.
So let me come to Stephen. So this person says, what do I do if my manager is insisting on doing something that is not best practice and does not conform to the Labor Act? And then I guess I have to add this question to it, so in answering you can answer both. The person says again that, is it legal to suspend an employee? So the first part of the question is the person wants to know what to do if the manager is doing something wrong that does not conform to the act. And then the second one is it legal to suspend an employee?
Okay. So I think that with the first question, the person even already has the answer. Now, if you think that what your manager is doing does not conform to the law, and for you as an HR person, you know what the law is, the easy thing for you to do is that just do a quick email or a memo, raise a memo or put together an email, quote what the law is, as you know, and your appreciation of the interpretation of the law. Sure. You can even go a step further to speak to people who work with that particular law. You can walk to the Office of the Labour Commission and say, I want an understanding of this particular provision in the Labor Act. Can you help? An officer will help you, get you to understand. So that when you put together the memo to your boss, or you put together the email, you can raise relevant issues bordering on what the law is saying and what the action at the enterprise would mean if we put it side by side with the law. That way, your boss would then come to appreciate that, okay, clearly you want to address the situation in a very diplomatic way. So it doesn't look like in our setting, you don't just what you are doing doesn't make sense. Where Jeff is coming from, it is normal, it is allowed. You can walk up to your boss and say, I don't think this makes sense. And the system would be okay with it. But here, if it doesn't make sense and you go and say it doesn't make sense, you should start looking for a new job. So put together a memo or an email, something that will address the situation between you and your boss, so that if there are consequences later on, you can fall back to that email and say, well, at the time, this is the advice I gave, and you have the evidence to back that claim. But if you don't, then it means that you're also condoning whatever act is going on. But like I said, put together a quick email, and look at the relevant provisions and speak to experts on it so that you can best advise your boss. Suspensions are not wrong. You can suspend an employee. It's a punitive action. So you realize that on suspension, the period for which you are on suspension, you don't get paid for it. So if you get suspended for 2 weeks, you're out of job for 2 weeks. Nobody is going to pay you for that 2 weeks. Otherwise, then we lose the essence of the punitive measure of what suspension is supposed to carry out. So I suspend you and I still pay you. Then I'll look for every day. I'll be looking to be suspended because I know when I get home, I will still get paid. But the suspension period is the time that you lose wages, for want of a better word, for that particular period. You don't get paid for the time that you are on suspension. But any time after you have resumed from your suspension, then the system automatically kicks in. You get rewarded for it. So yes, you can suspend, so long as you have gone through the proper procedure to reaching the decision to suspend. There is no issue. So I am late for work. Then the next thing is you are suspended. You should go through a certain process leading to the decision to say,
I guess David's
I'm
internet.
suspending you for.
I guess he's having. Steven, can you position yourself well?
It's for 1 week, for 2 weeks.
Outside of the world
That's
and virtual.
Kind of
Excuse me.
Sorry, Steven, we are not hearing you. If you can position yourself, please do that. Get your internet sorted, and then. But I believe Dora would want to continue from where Steven left off.
Yeah.
And-
So Stephen mentioned suspension without pay. So on a few instances, an employer can suspend somebody also with pay for a milder offense than somebody who has been suspended with pay. And the argument is that if you suspend the mere fact that you have suspended the person means that the person has committed an offense, and it's something, for want of a better word, it has spoiled the person's record in the Ghanaian parlance. You understand? Once you have been suspended, you are not coming to work 1 week, 2 weeks, whether you are paid or not, you have been suspended, and it is counted against you as a sanction or that was meted against you for some offense. And then whether it's legal to suspend or not, what I would say is that suspension is part of the sanctions that are meted out to employees. You know, normally we have a minor offenses and we have major offenses.
Yeah.
And then we have the corresponding sanctions. So suspension is like, if you give I think last week we mentioned it, the milder one will be verbal warning. The next one in hierarchy will be maybe written warning. And then the next one will be suspension with pay. The other one will be suspension without pay. Then you move to termination. Then you move to dismissal in that order. So it's not like there's no legal back, but in practice, it is done. And like Stephen said, you should have, gone through all the processes to warrant the person being suspended. Thank you.
Right. So suspension is legal. Just make sure that you are following due processes, because if you don't follow due processes, and then the person takes you on, you are going to suffer for it. So make sure that if you are suspending, you are following due processes. Right. So I want to move on to the next question. So this, I think I would want Jeff to pick this question and answer it from where he is now, and then those of us here, Stephen and Dora, will also help us to answer it. And the person says that, why are holidays exempted when calculating maternity leave but included in annual leave? I don't know how it's done outside Ghana.
Yeah. You said the question is, why are holidays
Why are holidays exempted when calculating maternity leave, but included in annual leave? Why
Well,
are holidays calculated
I
exempted
would, I
when
would, I would just answer that question with simple common sense, which is on holidays you were not supposed to be at work, so why should they be paying you? You get what I mean? So if they're
yeah.
calculating leave, they have to be looking at leave in terms of when you were going to be at work. You know what I mean? So it's like holidays are just like weekends. There are days when the government has said, let us all stay home. We are not going to work. You get what I mean?
Mm.
Christmas Day. Nobody's going to, if you're not, and you see, to me, it's simple logic. You know, you are not going to be productive that day. You know, you are going to be barbecuing, but you are still expected to be paid. We shouldn't be weaponizing the labor law against employers. That is not fair because they also have to make money before they pay us. So for me, it's even surprising that I'm hearing this question. If a person is going on maternity leave, calculate or plan for those holidays in between that you have to save something to cover those days when you know for sure they are holidays and you wouldn't have been at work. But on days when you had to be at work, then absolutely you're on a vacation of you're on maternity leave, so then obviously they have to pay you. So I'm wondering why people would expect companies to be paying them on holidays, unless it's government holidays that has been mandated to be a paid holiday. I mean, there are certain holidays, for example, President's Day, okay, in the United States. The government can say, well, people who want to go to work can choose to go to work. It doesn't say companies should shut down. It's a day in honor of presidents, past presidents of the United States. So if you choose to go to work, you have to get paid. It's a holiday. But if you don't work, you don't get paid. It's not that complicated. Let's not put too much burden on the Labor Commission. They don't have to answer every question for us.
All right, so I have an interesting comment here from Ajoa. Ajoa says that suspension with pay then becomes a holiday. I stand to be corrected because the person goes home as a disciplinary action but still gets paid. I guess our guests have already spoken to it, and Dora explained sometimes, depending on the situation, if it's a mild situation, you would want to look at how to handle that. All right. So thank you. Michael says, I'm watching from Cape Coast. Thank you, Michael. KDTV says, I'm not sure if Jeff got the question about maternity leave and holiday. I'm not sure. All right. So maybe let's
Let me just interject. The question is, the question that you put to Jeff, I think it's around it's a Ghana something. So once Jeff is not practicing here, he may not know the history behind it. You understand me? So he's responded to it, but I'm happy the person has written that. It's a Ghana thing, not so, or it's not a Ghana thing. This thing that we are talking about.
Yes, but Jeff is answering from his side. When it's done, then you and then Stephen will respond from our side how it is done here.
Okay. Because I know the person put this question because of the way it is practiced here in Ghana. It's not a global situation. It's not a global issue. You understand me?
Sure.
It's not a global practice. That's when somebody is on leave, right? Annual leave, and then the holiday, comes. The person that holiday is not counted as part of the annual leave. However, if a lady is on maternity leave and an annual leave happens, that day is not given to that woman. Jeff, is that what happens in your part of the world where you live in the States?
Can you break down the scenario you just explained? I'm
trying
to understand.
Let me break it down for you to hear. Here in Ghana, what happens is that if I am on annual leave, 20 days annual leave, I started on 1st April, right? The days are counting, I'm on leave. And then Good Friday and Easter Monday happens, right? Those are statutory public holidays for everybody in Ghana. So those 2 days, I would have to add them to my leave. You understand?
Mhm.
However, if I'm on maternity leave and Good Friday holiday, statutory public holiday, Easter Monday, statutory public holiday, those days will not, I cannot add those 2 days to my leave. That is what happens here. Pat, is that not what the question is saying?
Yes, it is.
Exactly. So with this understanding, Jeff can now help us.
I am not very much into employee relations, but I think
Okay.
a lot of it will be governed by company policy much more than the overarching law of this country.
Okay.
Because I know in some companies, okay, I've worked in some companies, and I know in some companies, even fathers are given paternity leave. So if a man's wife has a kid, okay, the man has a week to take off. The man can choose to exercise it or not. You know, some companies will say you get a week of unpaid paternity leave, but you can choose to come to work and get paid. You know what I mean? So it's I think I love over here we deal with the federal law, we deal with state laws, we deal with county laws, we deal with a lot of jurisdictional laws. So with all these layers of laws in place, the company policy, the company's employee relations team gets together and says, this is how we don't violate this. This is how we comply with this. So they come up with internal company policies. And during orientation, they explain all those things. They use scenarios. They spend like a week, 2 weeks to explain all these details to people. They give people handbooks and things that they reference. So at the end of the day, they don't get too much into these labor conflicts until somebody has left an organization. And then the person can go in and hit with things like race and issues like that. I rarely hear these type of issues because they state all these things up front. So if they are not going to pay a person who's on maternity, they have to have a reason. And it could be an organizational reason. It could be a county reason. It could be a state reason. It could be a federal reason. But they have to give you a good reason to do that. That's how I would put it. But I'm not really a labor relations person, so I can't get into the details of what the law states here. Yeah. But I generally see a lot of companies implementing different policies, but those policies may be based. For example, a person in Maryland can end up going through a completely different employee relations process than a person in California, because California has certain laws that don't apply in Maryland. Okay. However, one of the things that I see is in almost every decision, they have a fair justification that would be supported by the courts.
Sure. So Pat, let me just come. So we don't know as of today, we don't know the reason why the framers of the Labor Act did it that way. But I think about a few months ago, some experts are putting a review together to review the Labor Act, and people have put this across for it to be considered. So that if somebody is on maternity leave, the leave days would not also, the annual leave holidays would also not be counted. I know that one for sure. So let's see what happens.
We will go for a short break, but before we do that, can you elaborate, or can you speak to how it is currently done in Ghana?
Well, currently, most of the time, we practitioners don't really look at the law very well. So for a long time, when calculating maternity leave, HR practitioners were also, they were not taking that law into consideration. Like the example I gave, if you're on maternity leave and some holiday happens, that day is added to the days for you. You don't lose out on that day. But now people are looking at the Labor Act and saying, look, the law didn't say that when you're on maternity leave, you have to get that holiday in addition. So that is what the practice is now. It's only counted when you are on annual leave and not when you're on maternity leave. That's the practice now. Yeah.
It's only counted when you are on annual leave and not on.
Yeah, that's if you want to go by what the Act states. Yeah.
Right. So that means it's considered calendar month.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we'll be going on a short break. When we come back, there's a question here. Someone is asking if you can suspend someone on maternity leave. If you have an employee on maternity leave, can you suspend the person? Right after the break, I would like our guests to speak to this question, and then we can move on.
Hello, viewers. My name is Kojo Vaness. I'll be your facilitator for the compensation and benefits training, which is on the 27th and 28th April, organized by SEDAT at the Crystal Palm Hotel at Tesano. This is going to be a time for HR practitioners to have hands-on experience on how to design a compensation and benefits policy, how to design the payroll, how to even design a salary structure. We have done this training for the past 4 years, and I can confidently tell you that every single person that has participated in this training currently is able to design their own payroll, design their own salary structure, and do not entirely need any consultant. So I encourage each and every one of you to register. You can look down there, you get the information needed to register. Make the call SEDAT, and let's meet on the 27th and 28th.
Welcome back from the break. This is SEDAT HR Digest, brought to us by SEDAT Consult and Quick Fix Creative. We want to answer the question, a question that was posted in the comment box. The person wants to find out, can you suspend an employee who is on maternity leave? Dora.
But this question, so is the person saying the lady is on maternity leave at home and has committed an offense or what? Or the person wanted to ask whether a pregnant woman can be. I don't get the question very well.
The question says, can you suspend someone on maternity leave?
How is that possible? I don't get the question very well. The person is on maternity leave at home. And maybe in the person's absence, it was realized that the person has committed an offense before the person went on maternity leave or what? I don't really understand the question.
So, forgive me if I don't get the pronunciation. If Vikram or Vikram, please come again. Let us know the detail of your question, and so our guests can respond to. But
it's not very clear.
Maybe, probably okay. So, what if the person probably had done something, investigation has started, and then in the midst of that proceeded on maternity leave? Whilst on maternity leave, it happens that their investigations are done and the award is supposed to be suspension. Can it be awarded? And if
the sanction is going to be suspension, well, already the person is even not in the working. So how can the suspension also count alongside the maternity leave? The person is already at home. You understand what I mean? So I don't think I don't see how this is. Or Jeff, the person is on maternity leave. How can you go ahead to suspend the person? Then they will be running concurrently, the two.
Well, you understand me? So, I think Vikram posted something. He said she was absent frequently.
Yeah.
So I would say that frequently.
But she is on maternity leave as we speak.
No, so I guess it
but
started.
She was.
Yes, she was.
She was absent frequently.
Proceeded on maternity leave, and we can say that this person was a pregnant person. So was the absence due to pregnancy-related absence, or in pregnancy a whole lot of things happened. So probably the person was frequently absenting herself before going into maternity leave.
So we would have to answer. So let's
go ahead, Dora.
So the person is asking whether a pregnant woman can be sent on suspension. Not so. Of course, yes. I mean, the pregnant woman is not ill. Pregnancy is not an illness. You understand? So whatever sanction that has to be meted out to somebody who has committed the same offense has to be applied to the person. Well, the fact that you are pregnant doesn't mean that you cannot, like you cannot be given a verbal warning. You cannot be given a written warning. Same way you can be given suspension. You understand me? So it is here. The answer is yes.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you, Dora, because if I were the HR person in this scenario, okay,
Yeah.
and I'm responding directly to Vikram, if I were the HR person, if the person took, let's say, maternity leave for 3 months, for example, I'm just using hypotheticals.
Oh, we missed Jeff. I guess is the okay. So I'm having clarification on the question here. Love says, I'm thinking the person committed an offense before proceeding to maternity leave and was discovered in her absence. So Dora, if you can help. So Love had come clearer on the question. Love is saying that she's thinking that probably the person committed the offense before proceeding to maternity leave, and it's now been discovered. So while the person is on maternity leave, it was discovered that this was offense that was committed. In that case,
Okay.
can the person be suspended? And if the person can be suspended, how do you handle the maternity leave and the suspension?
So Pat, maybe like Stephen said, so it means that if it's a severer offense, then the loss of the revenue would be the punishment. You understand me? Suspension without pay. So as for the suspension, the absence, she's already absent from the office on maternity leave. So maybe the withholding of the salary is what would be the sanction. That's it. So it will be suspension without pay, right? So she's on maternity leave. She started maternity leave already. So the suspension is 2 weeks. So what she would only suffer is the withholding of the remuneration. That's it.
Okay, so I have KDTV says about the issue of suspension. Usually, you should wait for her to resume because usually suspensions are without pay, and you don't want to hold on to the salary of an employee on maternity leave.
So we'll wait for 9 months, the person to deliver, and I mean for the person to deliver the 3 months to finish the maternity leave. Maybe if she has accumulated leave, she will take it. And when she resumes, you tell her to go back on suspension. That is not fair. That will not be fair. I don't think it will be, it's best practice. It will not be fair. So once she's at home, let it run concurrently and then just withhold the without pay matter. You understand? That's the withholding of the salary. I mean, in managing employees, human beings, we have to take all these things into consideration. If you do that, you'll be seen as a very bad employer. I mean, how can you do this? For the person to resume from maternity leave, then ask the person to go back on suspension. I wouldn't advise that. I would never recommend that. Thank you.
So Marilyn says, if I were the HR person, I would seek the advice of a health practitioner and rule out the fact that she's absent due to health conditions. Absolutely. So Marilyn is saying that if the employee who was absenting herself during when she was at post before maternity leave, she would want to find out from a medical practitioner if her absence has nothing to do with her health. I mean, it has nothing to do with health conditions. Once that is ruled out, then she would go ahead to take whatever action that she wants to take, and that is
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we want to move on. Somebody says, what steps can employees take to improve their job performance? What steps can employees take to improve their job performance? Jeff, you want to help us on this?
Yeah, there's so many steps. There's so many steps that can be taken. I think the starting point would be to really thoroughly understand what is going on. Okay, what is causing the performance to dip? And then they have to motivate employees. They have to provide them resources. They have to train them. They have to compensate them. It's a whole lot of factors. So I think it will all depend on what the root causes of the situation are. You don't, most of the time people tend to throw, like, for example, training at issues, but it could be that it's not a training issue. It could be that it's just a moral issue. Some people may not be performing simply because of the way their boss treats them. So the company has to have a very good investigative arm that finds out specifically why people are not meeting required expectations, and then just solve that. I don't think it's overly complicated. You know, sometimes when we get too academic, we complicate ourselves. But a child shows up and says, "I'm not feeling well." What specifically is happening to the child? Give the child the medication that's going to solve the problem, and the child is going to heal. So it starts, for me, we have to do a thorough needs assessment to really find out what's going on. Now, there's so many ways we can find out those needs. There's so many ways we can do focus groups. We can do focus groups without, let me give a typical example here. And this will tell you the kind of thing I'm talking about. In one of my previous environments, okay, we were an organization that prided ourselves in retaining employees. However, for a period of time, for about 8 months, we were losing people. Turnover rate was about 40%. And we wanted to find out specifically what the problems were. We kept sending out emails, doing focus groups. We were never getting the answers. And then one person hinted, one of the people who were investigating, it was mainly the training department that was investigating. One person hinted them and said, "Look, these guys are not comfortable sharing the truth because their supervisors are right here." So we made an organizational decision. No supervisor is going to be in those conversations. Okay. Once we took the supervisors out, what we found out was that they were using terms and acronyms that they had actually acquired over the years. Let's say, to fix the PDC and change the OAC and things like that. And these were people who went to Harvard and Yale, and they were like, just speaking code language and making me feel unintelligent is not a way to hold me down financially. So, like, if you can't speak proper English, I'm going to leave your company. And that was so we said, okay, if these managers are going to use code language that is difficult to digest by new, well-trained and well-prepared folks, what we did from a training department was put together a list of acronyms. We went to all the departments and we created something like a Bible that says, if a manager says AQ7, that's what it means. And then these people started staying, because the managers were using those languages as a way to make themselves seem brighter than the younger ones, you know, but it's just because they had learned those things over a period of time. So my solution is, make sure you really kind of pinpoint the root cause of what is causing performance to. Okay, once you find that out, everything else is easy, pretty straightforward.
Once, make sure you pinpoint what the root cause is, and once you find out, everything becomes easy. So Jeff, this looks more is geared more towards the employer, like finding ways to improve the performance of the employee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at
it from let's look at it from which angle?
The other side, from the employee's perspective. I'm an employee. What steps can I take to improve my performance?
Well, I think, employees need to start engaging in a mind shift. Employees need to start looking at themselves not as people who just work for organizations, but as people who are their own brand. If I'm a good marketer, I can market for Qatar Airlines. I can also market for British Airways. So employees must incorporate the attitude of self-development. So if they get into organizations where they are not being given the tools, the training, the resources to do their jobs efficiently, they have to voice up and really ask for those resources. Employees have to go for trainings. They have to attend seminars, conferences, workshops, and things like that. You want to differentiate yourself in the market. Okay, so employees have to engage in self-development. And I like to remind employees that the self is in front of development. So they have to understand that they would have to be honest with themselves and do an honest self-analysis and say, look, I'm Jeffrey Boham. I'm good in this. Like I told you patients last time, I am not an employee relations person. So when I
Yeah.
get on the communication with folks like Dora and folks like Stephen, I'm going to sit back. I'm not going to run my mouth. I'm going to listen to them. They know it more than I do. It's an area that I have to build myself. Okay, if I want to be that, I will take courses when they are teaching. So it's just as simple as that. Employees have to find ways and means to differentiate themselves in the market. And they have to know the value that they bring to the market. When an employee, when you're going for a job interview, you want to be able to tell organizations that, look, when I come to your organization, sales is going to improve by this because this is what I did in this previous organization. But I mean, some people may not have that skill of diagnosing themselves. Okay, what they might want to do, they might want to invest in a mentor, in a coach, in somebody who's done it. Let the people help them find out where their weaknesses are, and then just build competences and expertise in those areas and improve themselves. I hope that helps.
Sure. Thank you very much, Steve. So if you are, all of us are employees, and for us to be able to perform better and improve our performance on the job, we need to make sure that we develop ourselves. Self-development is very, very important. And I keep telling people that don't wait for your organization to come and develop you. If you see something and you think it will benefit you, it may not be right now, but you could, if you know where you are going, go for it, develop yourself, keep it, because you never can tell when the opportunity will come. And so make sure that you're always developing yourself. Invest in coaches and mentors who can help you, those who have been there before, people who have done it before. Talk to them, let them help you, and make sure that you diagnose yourself so you'll be able to know what exactly is lacking and how to improve that. And on this note, I'd like to remind you that on 27th and 28th of April, there is a training on how to design competitive salary grading and salary structure at the Crystal Palm Hotel here in Accra. The link has been posted in the comment box. Click on it, register, come and learn, come and develop yourself, come and learn how to develop a salary structure so that you will not be accused of being the HR that is giving people low salaries. All right, it's getting interesting and our time is fast running. I would like, Stephen, I want to take your view on that. Somebody says that how can employees effectively communicate their needs and concerns to management?
Okay,
And then
so
probably you want to add, we don't have time, so I want to now double up the questions, and maybe you want to add this one. What is the best way to handle conflicts with colleagues and supervisors in the workplace? You would want to take this first, and then once you are done with this, we can now talk about, you can talk about how to effectively communicate our needs and concerns to management.
okay, so I'll use my answer to answer the second answer should be able to give us answers to the first question as well. Now, in terms of how to deal with each other at work and with our supervisors, there's this protocol I read in a book. It's called the Ghost Protocol, not the movie Ghost Protocol, but the Ghost Protocol. So it's about having conversations. So the first is that it must be gentle, it must be honest, it must be open, it must be straightforward, and it should be time bound, or it should be trustworthy. So if we are putting this protocol as a measure to resolve differences at work, you and I both believe that if we are adopting it as the principle requires, that in having conversations, we'll be gentle with each other, we'll be honest with each other, we'll be open, we'll be straightforward, and we'll be truthful. Then no matter what it is, in our Ghanaian parlance, no matter what it is still our tongues that we'll use to discuss it, and not cutlasses or anything. So ideally, we should be able to have conversations bordering on this nature of protocol, where we are both gentle with each other. We speak it as it is, but with decorum. That way, you know that once everything is done in that manner, then clearly no wrong, or you can go ahead and have the conversations in such a way that everybody involved would feel respected. Because you see, if you're having challenges with your colleagues or even with your supervisors, and you need to have a sit down, that discussion should be should be done in a way that everybody will be happy. Everybody will be clear in their minds where the direction, or everybody should be clear in their mind the direction of the conversation, so that we can deal with each other openly. Now, in terms of the first question, just like I said, the kind of conversations surrounding issues will help us to resolve differences as and when they come up, and we should be good to go from that point on.
Right, Stephen, thank you so much. So in handling ourselves at the workplace, Stephen says we need to be gentle, we need to be honest, we need to be open, we need to be truthful. And when there's an issue, you don't use cutlasses and knives and things. We need to sit and discuss. Let's talk about it. Let's speak to the context of the issues and not attacking personalities. Thank you very much, Stephen. Our time is fast going, and I want to ask Jeff this question. Someone is saying that how can employers ensure diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
How can employers ensure diversity and inclusion? Well, before I even get into that, I want to go back and highlight what Stephen said, which is extremely important. It's important that we create a feedback-rich environment, where people are free, psychologically safe to go to people. I mean, you come to this part of the world, kids will tell their parents, "Mommy, that is wrong. I'm sorry. Mommy, this is how we see it these days." And mommy takes that as a sign of respect. Daddy takes that as a sign of respect, because they are reaching out to mom, they are reaching out to dad and sharing what they think, much more than saying, "Me, then you go to a different place and they surprise their parents." In organizations here, we have a culture, we call it confrontation. We're all moving towards the same thing. So I reach out to you and I counsel you and I tell you what we're doing isn't good, because we are all moving towards the same target. Okay. Now, coming back to the main question, in order to ensure diversity and inclusion, it starts from that point of view. I said this last week, where find out that a lot of people, diversity is an issue in our part of the world, because we all look alike. Yeah, I can for you, that kind of thing. But it's not true. Okay, we have differences in opinion. So there's diversity of thought. Employers think a certain way, employees think a certain way. So we want to create that feedback-rich environment where when I go to Stephen and say, "This is what I don't understand," my company shouldn't get angry. I'm trying to really just get clarity on something. So unless we build that environment where people see that even though people may look alike, they grew up in circumstances, people have different worldviews, there has to be diversity and inclusion. You have to accept your siblings as your siblings, even though you may not like certain things they do. They are your siblings. You're working together to build the same family. So it's that mindset. I think D&I, equity, diversity, and inclusion should be integrated into our local culture much more than we are doing currently.
Right. Oh, we lost Jeff. We lost Dora. I'm sure they would get back to us. But whilst we wait for them, Stephen, there's a question here I would like you to answer for us. The person is asking, so when we're talking about maternity leave and its calculation, someone asked if what about excuse duty? Welcome back, Dora and Jeff. We lost you. There's a question that someone asked, but probably Jeff, you would want to finish up, and then I'll ask Stephen the question about excuse duty, and we will end it on that note. Right. So
so very much patience. I know that this thing has been going back and forth with the drop and things like that, but when it comes to diversity, I think where every human beings are the most variable of all variables. So at any point in time, we have to ask, table certain questions. Ask people, what do you think about it? Get inclusiveness. Get people brought in. Okay, let people share. You'll be surprised that sometimes the most the most creative responses might be from the janitor who's been there for 20 years. And that janitor may have seen things happen a certain way. We don't have to always say because somebody is in the C-suite, the person should be the only person whose ideas, stand for the organization. Then we have to float some of these things and give everybody an opportunity to be heard and everybody to share their thoughts and help to improve things across. We have to actually encourage those kinds of conversations. And thank you very much for asking that question. I think it's something that is absolutely necessary. I was going to say something. Sometimes I come home and I even see the way some of my own friends, my own colleagues, the way they relate to other co-workers, simply because they are one step ahead of them. That's not right. The person who is vice president may not be president, but that person could be president tomorrow. And when you are not president and you're sitting outside and you want that person to change certain things, the person will say, well, when I was VP, you never gave me ears. You never gave me audience. But why do you want me to be listening to you now? So it becomes a tit for tat issue. But when we create a feedback-rich environment where everybody is free to share their opinions and we aggregate the opinions, everything is going to work well. We have to try as much as possible as a society to develop that more.
Right. We need to create an environment where people can air their views and speak to issues freely without victimization. So I was asking Stephen, reading out someone's question to Stephen. When we're talking about maternity leave and its calculation, somebody posted in the comment box that what about excuse duty? So I'm sure the person wants to know how excuse duty is calculated. Do you include weekends to the calculation of excuse duty? Okay, so that I have gotten the KDTV says, how about excuse duty? Do we count weekends and holidays? Stephen.
All right. So in terms of excuse duty, just as malaria will not tell you I'm coming to affect you on a Tuesday or Wednesday, it is the same manner we treat excuse duties. So today is a Sunday, right? Granted that I'm not well, so I go to the hospital today. The doctor says you need 2 days to rest. My 2 days starts from today because today is when I went to the hospital. People tend to think that, oh, the doctor says I have 2 days. So the day I went to the doctor is not part. Please, let's not make that mistake. It is part of it. So if you're on maternity leave and for any reason you go to the hospital and the doctor says you need some extra days of rest. Sometimes what the nursing mother will do is that they will honestly tell the doctor that, oh, doc, as it stands, I'm even on maternity leave. So then the doctor will say, you really have to give you days off work. So rest with your maternity leave. Some of the doctors too would say, well, yeah, you're on maternity leave, but right now you are sick. So I'm giving you days for being sick. Now, if that happens, those days, be it 1 week, be it 2 days, be it 3 days, is added to the person's maternity leave. It is not, you don't count it immediately as it is, but you add those extra rest days as part of your leave because you see, sick leave is not part of maternity leave. So if the doctor gives you days of work for being sick whilst you are on maternity leave, it's an additional day or two for you. That is how the law interprets it. But you would find that, like I said earlier, some of the nursing mothers will say, doc, I'm on maternity leave, so I don't really need the days. Just let me go home and rest. But if the doctor gives those extra days, then those extra days are added to the maternity leave. And it is proper that the moment you are giving a sick leave from the hospital, you make a copy available to HR so that they know, because while you're on maternity leave, the general expectation is that you should resume at a certain date. So if you keep the excuse duty, the sick leave duty that the doctor has given you away from HR, then it would mean that you will be at home resting, but per company records, you are looking at vacating your post because you haven't resumed at the date that you are expected to resume work. So once you're given, make a copy available to HR that I went to the hospital, the doctor says I need some extra days to get better. Then they can adjust your return date. Otherwise, you lose out on some 5 days or some 10 days. You come back and they say, well, we expected you this day, you didn't come. So to us, you have vacated your post. it will be difficult for you to work your way back into the company again. So that is the advice I would give in that respect.
Yeah.
Right. So Jeff, if I got you right, it means that irrespective of when you visited the hospital, whether you went on Friday or you went on Monday or you went on Tuesday, your excuse duties start from the very day you visited the hospital. Some doctors, you get some
Exactly.
doctors telling you that you came today, but your excuse duty is starting. Will write a date like tomorrow.
That's
Just
just,
to
that's
give,
No.
yes,
that's not correct. Yeah.
that's what some professionals do, some medical
Doctors.
practitioners do, but that is not the right thing. Majority, I mean, some of them do, not all of them, but if majority of them would give you the date as of the time you visited the hospital.
Sure.
And if you went on Friday and they said rest for 3 days, it means that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday,
at
you're
work.
going to work. Right, Stephen? Thank you. So
Yes, right.
I'm sure KTA, sorry, is it KTVG? Okay, KDTV. I'm sure we have answered you on this. I'd like to ask my last question, and I'll take your final comments, and then we would call it a time. And so this question, I would like Dora to respond to it, and then if Jeff and Stephen, you have something to say, you can also come on board. So someone is asking that how can job seekers effectively prepare for interviews, and what are some common mistakes that applicants make during the hiring process?
Okay. Right. So common mistakes that job seekers make when preparing for interviews. Right. So every vacant position has certain specs or certain requirements stated in the advert. Right. So if I am looking for a job, I have to look at those specific requirements that the advertiser has put out in terms of the job specification and the person specification. So for instance, if it is a first degree with 5 years experience or expertise in a particular field that the job requires, I have to look at that very well and tailor my CV to meet that request, the requirement, right? So that is those are some of the mistakes. And then people don't, you have to go on the net and read about the organization and know about the organization, and also read about the position, the vacant position very well, so that you can design or develop your CV to meet the requirements of the job. So some of the, job seekers don't even look at the advert very well. They don't read about the organization. They don't even read about the particular position that's the vacant position, and then they go for interviews. You understand? So that is what I can say. And then what are some of the common mistakes that job applicants make during the hiring process? It's the same. The preparing for the interviews is part of the hiring process. So let's take the interview. You've been shortlisted and invited for interview. You need to prepare very well for the interview. You have to go and see the location ahead of the dates. Call and ask the type of interview what is going to be. Are you going to be asked to take a written test? Are you going to be required to make a presentation? What are you going to be? Is it a personality test that is going to be taken? You need to have information about all these before the interview date. And some don't do it. They just walk in there. Some even get there late. The interview is at 8 o'clock. They are there at 8:30. These are some of the things that I can say. So Steve and Jeff can add to it. Thank you. Yeah.
Dora, can you please position your camera well? I think we are not seeing your face.
Oh, right. Sorry, I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you. Jeff, do you want to add to this? There's a last question I have to read. In fact, I'm interested in that question coming from Jerome. I don't know if Jeff and then Stephen would want to add to what Dora had just said, and then I'll read out Jerome's question.
Well, if I can come in, Stephen, quickly.
Sure.
What I would say, I think Dora answered it perfectly. What I'm going to add to it is that I think people have to be as realistic as possible. Okay, sometimes you find out, and I've interviewed a lot of people, sometimes you find out that people just come in to impress just to get a job. But you have to do a thorough evaluation to see if you are capable of being the solution. Because companies post jobs because they are looking for solutions. If you don't think you are the best fit, if you don't think you are the person, don't go tell them things you can't do. Because in certain environments, you'll be fired within 3 days if they realize you
Yeah.
cannot do it. So you want to be as realistic as possible. And then one piece of advice I'll give folks is be your authentic self and be genuine throughout the process. So, for example, you have certain people who have bad attitudes. They'll give a bad attitude to the person at the front desk, give a bad attitude to the security guard, and go give a good attitude to the interview panel and think they'll get a job. You have organizations that are very well mature that you'll be surprised that a person who comes to get you from your car looks straight in your car and sees how dirty your car is and concludes at the end of the day that, hey, you know what? How bad your car is going to be a reflection of how your office is going to be, and it's going to be a reflection of your mind. You'll be surprised that in some organizations, we call them directors of first impression. The person at the front desk that you meet, if you are not polite to that person is part of the interview. You want to be certain about some of these things. If you don't treat people, sometimes people go for job interviews and they don't get it, and they don't know why, but they go through the process being so not nice to everybody, but the person who's going to interview them, and they end up not getting a job. You have some organizations that split the weighting, the ranking across board, from the janitor, from the people you talk to, from the when I remember there was a time when I was managing a large team, my team gave scores, and what I did was only about 20%. So people were just being nice and sweet and polite to me, but we were picking other people, and they were surprised because my team gave them higher rankings than myself and things like that. So these are little things that people need to pay attention to.
Pay attention to everything, right? From, in fact, after all the preparation in the house, when you get to the company, from the security to when you enter the because you never know who is part of the panel that is going to interact with you whilst on your way to the interview room. All right, so that's Jerome. I want to read Jerome's question, and that is on the excuse duty. So Jerome says that some doctors will state 5 working days. How do you handle the working days stated? And I think Lucy was trying to also explain to was trying to explain to same question that sometimes you are giving days, okay, and the days are sometimes stated in working days. Sometimes some doctors don't state it at all, depending on whether they state it or not. That will depend on how you will handle it. And this is from Lucy. It says, example, 5 days or 5 working days. These are treated differently. So Jerome, I believe Jerome's question that will be tied to this. So he wants to find out if the doctor states working days, how do you handle it? Stephen, do you want to help us with this?
Okay, so if the doctor says working days, then that is what it is supposed to be, working days. Now, the reason why I will cede to the authority of the medical officer is that I am not a medical officer. So I can't really tell what was going on in the mind of the doctor at the time that he was writing 5 working days. But like I have explained, the general principle when it comes to excuse duty is that weekends are part of your excuse duty. So unless it is specifically stated that it is 5 working days by the medical officer, then you should have it at the back of your mind that what it would mean is that if you, let's say, you went to the hospital on the Thursday and the doctor says, I'm giving you 5 working days, then it would mean that it is Thursday, Friday, plus Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Stephen, we are losing you. We can't really
Is it
hear
better
you.
now?
I think he's driving.
Yes, it's better now. Yes,
It's better now. Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, if the doctor states 5 working days, then we're looking at the working days as it is. But that is usually an error on the part of the medical officers because they assume that 5 working days and 5 days are one and the same, but they are not. So when it comes to the administration of excuse duty, there is nothing like working day or non-working day, because like I said earlier, a sickness will not give you notice that I will be coming on a working day, so prepare. So it is that same principle that we use to guide us when it comes to sick leave administration or excuse duty. So it is just supposed to be 5 days as it is, or 2 days as it is. That separation of working day, there are some companies that when you send that, they will tell you that no, it is supposed to be your days. So if it is 2 days, it doesn't matter if it was on a weekend or not, they will count 2 days, the day you went plus an extra day, and then you are expected to come back to work. That's why I keep saying that, look, when you go and they give you that excuse duty, immediately make a copy available to HR. If there are concerns, they will raise it with you before its expiration. And then you realize that you'll be in safe hands. But if you don't, and you think, oh, they've given it to me, so let me just stay away from work, it becomes a breeding ground for you to have issues at work. So I'd always advise that you go, they give you the excuse duty, take a shot. These days, there's WhatsApp, there's Telegram, there are emails as well. Just send a copy and just do a quick follow-up call to say, I have sent this, kindly look at it. It is for your own interest.
Sure.
You realize that once we do things that way, we save ourselves the trouble of having to deal and say that forgive me, Jeff, if you don't get the
Understand? So
He understands very well.
I mean, for the sake of my international audience.
I know.
I speak key, fancy, everything.
I see. Nice. So patience, that is it when it comes to trying to answer the gentleman's question.
Yeah, so Pat, let me just, So perfect response from Steve. What is the essence of excuse duty? It is for you to recuperate. You understand me? So recuperation doesn't take place only on weekdays. You understand? So if you go to hospital on a Friday, you are given excuse duty. It starts from the Friday. Saturday, you are taking the medication. You are recuperating. Sunday, you are taking the medication. You are recuperating. So if you are given 3 days, it means that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the doctor knows in his wisdom, in his technical wisdom or professional wisdom, knows that 3 days is enough for you to recuperate and get back on your feet. So any doctor who writes the working days, I mean, they will be condoning.
Oh, we've missed Dora. Dora, please position your.
Some of them do that, which is not person to just stay away from work. Thank you very much.
Dora, we missed you at the latter part of your presentation. If you can take that again, and then
what I'm saying is that excuse duty is just for recuperation. So in the doctor's own wisdom, if he or she believes that 3 days is enough for you to recuperate and get back on your feet, if you went to hospital on a Friday, starts counting from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days, that's it. And not on working days. I mean, not only on working days at all. All the days count, like Steve has perfectly put it. Thank you.
So if the doctor writes the working days, can we put it aside and say that no, or we have to go by it? I think that is what we want to know.
If I'm the HR person and the doctor writes working day, I'll pick a phone and call the doctor and ask the essence. Like Steve said, he doesn't know what was going through the person's mind at the time of doing it, but clearly we know it's wrong. Excuse duty is for recuperating. I mean, on the calendar days from Monday to Friday, Sunday to Saturday, on all the days. You don't only recuperate on weekdays. So if you are ill on a Friday and you went to hospital, Saturday you are taking the medication, but because it's a Saturday, you are not getting better. Because it's a Sunday, you are not getting better. You only get better on weekday. Is that how it works? No. So any doctor that does that would be just shortchanging the employer. We shouldn't condone those kind of things. Thank you.
Right, we shouldn't condone those kind of things. I believe that medical doctors listening to us, and
Yeah.
they will help us to do the right things. It's calendar days. If you go on Friday and they are giving 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like Dora said, she would call the doctor to find out why it's been stated working days, just to understand what went into the working days. But if you don't have access to the doctor, please do the right thing so that you don't get yourself into trouble. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful discussion today. Thank you so much, viewers. We love your participation. We are very, very much grateful. Thank you for watching us. Thank you for sending in your questions. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for your contribution. I'd like to take our final words from our guests, and then we would close for today. So let me go to Jeff. He's been quiet for a while. Jeff, your final words.
Well, I would say my final words are more words of appreciation. First and foremost to Sadat Consult for bringing these sessions to folks for free. Thank you to the other co-guests, our good friend Stephen and Dora, because I'll tell you, years ago, we had to go to school and pay for some of these things. Now we have the opportunity, we have technology, and we have organizations like Sadat that have said, hey, we want to listen to what the folks are saying. We want to listen to questions on people's minds. Okay, let's join these sessions consistently, and let's take advantage to educate ourselves. Because when someone like me, having sat on this part, I've been in this part of the world for 20-something years, okay? Over that period, you get a complete mind shift, even from what HR should be. And then you look at people like Stephen and people like Dora who are living in Ghana, but they have the expertise of people living outside. But then you talk to, sometimes you hear questions, you see questions that come across, and you are like, wait, the people at home really need help. They need some guidance. And to be honest with you, some of these sessions are very valuable. And I'll just keep saying that if you attended today, please tell your colleagues next time, come join us, because trust me, this is very helpful. This is the kind of trainings that would elevate all of us to even improve the HR. Yourself and the HR network and other groups are doing a great job. So thank you very much. And I like this question and answer format. It doesn't become a one-way conversation. It just becomes something where we're hearing different perspectives, local perspectives and perspectives from abroad. And it's extremely useful. Thank you very much for organizing it.
Thank you, Jeff. Stephen.
Yes, Patience. So, so thank you to your good self and management for putting this together. I always say that these things are always a learning experience for me. I get to learn from Auntie Dora, who is more like my mother, and then today I got to learn a few things from Jeff as well, and that I like the difference in jurisdiction in terms of the application of the law. It helps to appreciate what we do here as well. So my only take is that, look, if you are in doubt, ask. I learned that from Madame Dora. She will tell you that, Steve, if you are not too sure, find out from an expert before you take a certain decision. Sure. And I'll say this to our colleague HR people. If you are not certain, ask around. People are willing to help.
If you are not certain, ask. If you are in doubt, ask. If you are not too sure, ask. Because as an HR practitioner or as an employee, you cannot live in isolation. You need to network. You need to ask. You need to get in touch with other experts who can help you when you get stuck on the way. And I want to take the final word from Dora, and then we will end today. Dora.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Pat, for bringing us together to support our colleagues out there, and thank you so much for Sadat Consult as well. And my main concern is with those HR people who work for one-man organizations where HR is not properly structured. So one question was put, and then Jeff took it. Develop yourself, seek help, you may want to join the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management Ghana. You can go online and search and then develop yourself professionally. That way you would be able to arm yourself professionally to support those one-man organizations who may not have the systems, and then you would even begin to put the systems in place for them so that all workers have, good ambience, good professional environment to work in, so that we all make the workplace a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dora. Sign on to the Chartered Institute of Human Resource Management Ghana, or get knowledge and develop yourself. You get a lot of people to network with, and I believe you will learn. Okay, so Mekria says, I wish listeners could call in someday. Thank you, Mekria. We would maybe try and put that in place so that there will be a call in. Thank you so much. Kafui says, thanks for the clarity that weekends are included. I guess she's referring to the calculation of the excuse duty. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for joining. Vikram said, yes, Dora. I'm not too sure which one he's responding to, but probably I'm sure he's responding to the fact that you need to develop yourself and all the other things that have been discussed. It's been wonderful having you today on SEDAT HR Digest. It's been a Q&A session from last week and this week. I'm not too sure if we are going to continue to next week. We have a lot of questions though. But we will see if we don't even continue next week, we would gather some more questions and come again to respond to you. Jerome said, very insightful. Thank you, Jerome. And if all our viewers on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to remind you that from 27 to 28 of this month, that is Thursday and Friday, there is a training. There's going to be a training on how to design competitive salary grading and salary structure at the Crystal Palm Hotel. You don't want to take yourself out of this training. Come and learn, come and develop yourself. Like I said, don't be the reason why people would be giving low salaries. Don't let anybody point finger at you. Otherwise, Dora would come to your house and come and punish you for that. And because I believe she's spoken a lot and she wouldn't want you to find yourself in that mess. So please join coming Thursday and Friday at Royal Crystal Palm Hotel from 27th to 28th. It's starting exactly at 8:30 and it's going to end at 3:30 p.m. on each day. You can see the registration link scrolling on the screen. It's been posted in the comment section. Please look for it, click on it, register, come and let's learn. And I want to say a very big thank you to my guests, Dora, Jeff, and Steven. Thank you so much for coming. And you guys are solid. That's how I can describe you in one word: solid. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. We will be coming your way with another episode, another interesting topic on SEDAT HR Digest, brought to us by SEDAT Consult and Quick Fix Creative. Guys, we love you. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, viewers. My name is Kojo Vaness. I'll be your facilitator for the compensation and benefits training, which is on the 27th and 28th April, organized by SEDAT at the Crystal Palm Hotel at Tesano. This is going to be a time for HR practitioners to have hands-on experience on how to design a compensation and benefits policy, how to design the payroll, how to even design a salary structure. We have done this training for the past 4 years, and I can confidently tell you that every single person that has participated in this training currently is able to design their own payroll, design their own salary structure, and do not entirely need any consultant. So I encourage each and every one of you to register. You can look down there, you get the information needed to register. Make the call SEDAT, and let's meet on the 27th and 28th.